When is Skynet?
I don't know.
Does Charlie know?
Always 9 p.m. Saturday on 146.88. Duh.
W5FC.
Mic check, mic check. Can I get a radio check? Anybody on frequency? Whiskey, 9 Papa.
Whiskey 9 Papa, Kilo India 5, November, Oscar, November. I had the volume down, so I'll have to give you more, or I'll have to let you speak more to get a better check, but I could hear you. Yeah, 5NON.
I appreciate it. Let me give you a good count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And Whiskey 9 Papa.
Audio might be a little quiet, but you are definitely making the repeater just fine. I had some picket fencing, but I am mobile and under power lines, so I'm going to call that on my side.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you so much. Just had to get some new lines run out to the antenna. I appreciate you coming back. Whiskey 9 Papa, clear. Thank you.
Not a problem. KI5NON, also clear.
N50XY. I have pulled down that antenna, and I have folded it back in on itself. Didn't have any change. So then I started trimming off some of that stuff I folded in on itself, and still no change. I've cut off about 4 inches from each leg of this antenna, and I'm at a loss. I have no idea why the SWR resonant frequency isn't changing at all. It's currently resonating at 27.6 megahertz. N50XY.
How are you feeding antenna 35 LQD?
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Anyone need to use the repeater before we begin the 9 p.m. Skynet? This is KPDS. My name is Billy, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign, break, and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic? A directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me. And stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.880 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list. And remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. This net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. General announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope, National Space Society events, discussion topic of the evening, Was Up, space exploration and space history, constellation of the week, space launches of the week, recent astronomical discoveries, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, astronomical Q&A, and our 73 round. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. So at this time, I'll turn the net over to my alternate net control, Tom, KE5ICX, if you'll do the check-in honors, please.
I'll do exactly that, Miss Billy, and thank you for being net control this evening. This is KE5ICX. My name's Tom. I'll be your alternate net control this evening in charge of check-ins. So we'll start with low power, short time check-ins. If you're one of those, please come with your call sign, your name, where you're transmitting from. Let me know if you're low power, short time. Please come now.
Kilo, Golf, 5, Uniform, Foxtrot, Romeo. Jacob, Dallas, low power. This is Whiskey 5, Golf, Uniform, Sierra, Gus, far, far northeast Dallas, low power.
Okay, I got 2 low power short time. I got KG5 UFR, Jacob, Dallas, low power, and W5 GUS Gus in far, far northeast Dallas, also low power. Any other low power short time check-ins, please come now.
This is Whiskey Bravo number 4, Mike Foxtrot, India. Ted, Dallas, low power.
Okay, we picked up one more. I got WB4 MFI, Ted, one of our regulars, Dallas, low power. Do any of you have any announcements you want to bring to the net before your power fades away? Please come with your call sign. All right, let's move on to general check-ins. Please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
N5, Bravo, Bravo, November 5, Bravo, Bravo. Bill in Irving.
KB5, DMC, Kilo Bravo 5, Delta Mike Charlie, Brian in Roanoke.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, Chaz Mesquite.
This is Alpha Alpha 5 Alpha Hotel Robert Richardson.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brenda in DeSoto.
Kilo Foxtrot 5 Zulu Bravo Lima. Bill, our French.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas.
Kilo Golf 5 Whiskey Victor Lima, James in Carrigton.
This is Kilo 5, Kilo Tango X-Ray Kelly in Quinlan.
All right, that was slow but deliberate, no doubles, so I think I got y'all. I got N5DV, Bill in Irving, KB5DMC, that's Brian in Roanoke, welcome. KF5 JHA, Chaz, the Pun Master in Mesquite, AA5AH, Robert in Richardson, WB5OZL, Miss Brenda in DeSoto, KF5ZBL, Mr. Bill, Farmers Branch, NT5TM Tony in Dallas, KG5 Whiskey Victor Lima, that's James in Carrigton, K5 KTX Kelly in Quinlan. Whoops, I don't know how I had a brain lock there for a second, but I got you. And yeah, I think I got everybody checked in. I'll take additional check-ins. Please come now with your call sign, name, and where you're transmitting from. Okay, well, boy, that's light this evening. Maybe we'll pick up some others later on. Let me go ahead and go to Echolink. I'll take Echolink check-ins. Please come now with your call sign, your name, and where you're transmitting from. taking a look to see if there's anybody else there, but go ahead. If you're out there, please come now with your call sign, your name, and where you're transmitting from. Echolink only.
Kilo Golf 5 Bravo Zulu Whiskey. Okay, near Weatherford.
Okay, picked up one, KG5BZWJ, near Weatherford. I have you checked in. I'll take another round before we begin. Anyone, any mode would like to join us, please come with your call sign, name, and where you're transmitting from.
This is November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Clay in the Street.
We picked up one more, N50F, that's Clay in Mesquite. Okay, well, I guess that's what we'll be doing on this round. We'll come back and get additional check-ins a little bit later. Back to net control. This is KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. Tom, did you get Kilo Golf 5 Papa Hotel John in Plano on Echo Link? He said he was unable to transmit. Just wanted to make sure you got him in the check-in round.
Affirmative, I have him now. Back to you.
Thank you so much. All right, we'll go ahead and begin the program with general announcements. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hams. If so, please come now with your call sign.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
I think I doubled with somebody. Inside BB.
T5TM, Tony, good evening. What announcements do you have for us this evening?
Thank you, Billy. Always great to hear you. Well, this is an excellent net. It is not the last net of the night. The last net is the Afterglow movie discussion. I believe tonight's movie is Thrill Seekers 1999, The Time Shifters. Perhaps they all drive 5-speed cars. There is a surprise net coming up this Monday. Don't know what it's going to be. And there is no Racy's net or meeting on the air this Sunday, as far as I know. Certainly no Racy's net, because it's the 5th Sunday. And we do those other things on the 1st and 3rd Sundays of the month. So enjoy your net tonight. Look forward to the surprise net on Monday, and enjoy Thrill Seekers 1999, The Time Shifters. NT5TM.
Thank you, Tony. It's always wonderful to hear you, too. And look forward to the surprise net on Monday. And you'll be hearing more, an award-winning description about Thrill Seekers here in just a few minutes. Do we have anyone else with announcements for this evening? If so, please come now with your call sign.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo.
5BB, Bill, good evening. What announcements do you have for us this evening?
Hi, Billy. Well, I tried to get in under the space news. The sun has been active here within the last few days. At the start of August, the sunspot number was 0. The activity is very low. But in the last few days, there's been some M-class solar flares. Yesterday, there was a M-class solar X-ray flare, and many more sunspots in some active areas. There also was a coronal mass ejection, a CME event, and it's slow-moving, and most of it will probably head south of the Earth-Sun plane, but there's a chance for a weak glancing blow around August 31st or September the 1st, Tuesday or Wednesday of this coming week. So we're getting some activity finally on the sun, some of which may lead to useful events, and some may lead to problems on the radio bands. Just depends. N5BB, thank you.
Thank you, Bill. That'll be interesting to see what happens come Tuesday and Wednesday. All right. Is there anyone else with announcements this evening? If so, please come now with your call sign. Not hearing any, so I'll go ahead with a few announcements of my own. The AMSAT Radio Amateur Satellite Group has 2 nets available to Dallas residents on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central Time. You'll need Echolink installed and you registered. You can find the nets under Groups and AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available on their website at www.amsatnet.com, and this net originates in Houston, Texas. The Dallas AMSATnet East, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, is every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on this repeater, 146.880 megahertz, with a PL tone 110.9. On Tuesdays, Tom N5HYP is net control. All are welcome to check in. First Tuesday of the month is the DARC Club Night, so there's no AMSAT East on that night. Dallas AMSATnet West is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, 147.140 megahertz, with a PL tone of 110.9 and a positive offset. The DARC hosts several Monday night nets. First Monday of the month is Ham Fixin's Net. It is where you can tune in to share recipes. If you have a question about food, anecdote about food, join us for Ham Fixin's. Second Monday of the month is MCOM 101, Emergency Communications. On the third Monday of the month, come back for a second helping of Ham Fixin's Net. And fourth Monday is GeekNet. And Tony mentioned fifth Mondays are surprise nets. If we told you what it is, it wouldn't be a surprise. On-air participation is encouraged. Tuesdays, AMSAT East, 8 p.m. Question answers, info, and news for amateur satellites. And Fridays is Search City Simulation. Summer hours, 8 p.m. Learn about emergency radio communications via CERT-trained amateur radio operators. Melissa KI5GRH is usually the net control. Visit the most disaster-prone city in the universe every Friday. Search City, all are welcome. And on Saturdays, the Night of Nets, with TechNet from 7 to 8 p.m., and of course Skynet at 9 p.m., and as Tony mentioned at 10:30, the Afterglow Movie Net. More about Afterglow in just a few minutes. The first and third Sundays is Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting on the air. Daily, there is ARRLNet, National Traffic System Training Net, every night at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. All are welcome to check in on any or all of these nets. And as Tony mentioned, at 10:30 after Skynet is the Afterglow Movie Net. For those that are new to this net, what we do is we volunteer movies to watch. We'll pick a movie, we'll watch it during the week, and we'll come back the following Afterglow Movie Net and discuss the movie. Anything from plot, characterization, special effects, music, and any other interesting tidbits about the movie for discussion. And then at the end of the net, we'll pick the movie to watch for the next week. So it's really interesting and fun, and they do take suggestions, requests for movies. We have a list of movies that we keep running, so You never know what it's going to be. It could be anything from an award-winning, iconic movie to a fun 50s B-movie flick. So it's all good fun on the Afterglow Movie Net. So at this time, I'll turn the net over to Tom, KE5ICX, if you'll give us this week's Afterglow info.
And of course, everything that I give you is 100% truth. This is KE5ICX. Rafasi looked at the booking sheet and found only a few people signed up for Thrill Seekers, a vacation time travel company. It was a great gig, and even Rafasi would dress up like Kennedy to get people in the mood. An opportunity to travel to some events and see it happen right up close and personal. Of course, Thrill Seekers had to get people back before a catastrophe occurred. No small feat. Meanwhile, on an aircraft headed to Washington, D.C., a man sits next to an obvious time traveler, a guy in a brown tunic with silver swoosh. Next to him, Edith Keeler sipping champagne. The business traveler knew he was in trouble. He read all about Edith Keeler. The man next to him spoke in single-word sentences. I am James T. Kirk of the Starship Enterprise. Have you seen this man? The poor passenger said he had. The strange man ran to the front of the plane and disappeared. Join us for another time travel wonder, Thrill Seekers. Tonight, that's 1999, tonight at 10:30 p.m. Apparently this is Kennedy month because we had, last week we had, what's his name who played Kennedy too. So it's Kennedy time travel. Back to net control. This is KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. I should have had to go ahead and let's see if we have an additional check-in. So let's do a quick check-in round and see if there are any additional check-ins at this time. And then you hand it back to me and we'll move on to our next segment. So this is to KE5ICX from KF5QDS.
Oh, thanks. And last week's star was William Dafoe. Yes, he played Robert Kennedy in The Missiles of October. And Martin Sheen is in this week's episode, or this week's movie, not playing a Kennedy. Okay, let's see. Let's go ahead and take additional check-ins. If you'd like to join us this evening, please come now with your call sign, your name, where you're transmitting from. It's quiet this evening. There must be something on TV. And it was William Devane. I've been corrected over here. Okay, I was close. I got his first name right. Anyone? No? Nobody on Echolink. Okay, well, it's going to be an interesting evening. Back to net control. This is KE5ICX.
Thank you very much, Tom. All right, next up is Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. So if someone on frequency wants to give the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas information, please come now with your call sign.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha.
JHA Chaz, as he said, he wants to be called Czar Punster tonight. So what news do you have for us this evening about Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas?
Thank you, Billy. At the college, I like to get students to have a title for me of Czar instead of professor or teacher or instructor. Yeah, Czar is a good one. Okay, the next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting will be held on Friday, September the 24th, 2021 at 7:30 p.m. The meeting was scheduled to be in person, but due to the rise in COVID cases, it's been switched to a Zoom meeting. The scheduled speaker will not be able to attend the meeting because they're going to be here locally in town. So right now, the only thing scheduled for the meeting is an annual election. Task Club members will receive an email link to the Zoom meeting in advance of the meeting. And Saturday night public observing sessions have been placed on hold because of COVID as well. One of the reasons why Skynet is picked to be on Saturday nights was so that there was an opportunity for live reports from task public observing sessions that are held on Saturday nights. So that hasn't been happening for the last year and a half. Check the TASS website, texasastro.org, for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions, which I hope can resume sometime soon. This is KF5JHA, the czar of pun. Back to our net control, Billy. KF5 PDS.
Great. Thank you very much, Chaz. Yeah, and I look forward to the day when we can get back to that, too. All right, next up is National Space Society events and activities. So at this time, I will turn the net over to Bill, N5BB, if you will give us news about the National Space Society events and activities.
Okay, thank you, Billy. This is N5BB. I am the membership director of the North Texas chapter of the National Space Society. If you have any questions about the National Space Society, you can reach me at space@byrom.net. That's SPACE at BYROM.net, or N5BB, that's November 5 Bravo Bravo, at ARRL.net. The North Texas chapter of the National Space Society meets on the second Sunday afternoon of every month. We met in July for the first time in a year and a half in Irving at Spring Creek Barbecue, our normally in-place location. But what happened? Well, at Moon Day and after the COVID kicked up, so we did go to Moon Day, but that was all. And now we're back to virtual meetings for the foreseeable future. Probably the remainder of this year. We shall see. If you would like to attend one of our virtual meetings on WebEx, you can send me an email. You can contact me at the email addresses I gave earlier, and I'll be happy to give you a pass to one of our virtual online meetings. I do not know the topic for our September meeting. Again, it will be on Sunday, September the 12th. The meeting will open at 3:30 p.m. and the presentation starts at 4 p.m. That's all I have right now. This N5BB. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bill. This is KF5PDS, Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. This time, move to the NCS topic, discussion topic of the evening, which I have chosen Origami in Space. So, there are several articles about origami in space. The New York Times is actually honoring top 11 winners of their student STEM writing contest by publishing their essays. And so the essay STEM writing contest winner, Hun-Sun Lee, and he did an article about origami in space. So I'll read a portion of that, and then there's a couple of interesting articles about other applications of origami in space. So again, this is from the New York Times, April 29th, 2021. This is by Hun-Sun Lee, age 17, from Cornerstone Collegiate Academy of Seoul in Seoul, Korea. He is one of the top 11 winners of the Learning Network's second annual STEM writing contest. And they received this year 3,741 entries. And they do have a link to all the student winners. So you can go to NewYorkTimes.com and look at their STEM writing contest winners and read other essays. This essay was entitled Origami in Space Engineering, Rediscovering the Meaning of Discovery. Origami is the ancient art of paper folding. It transforms the potential of a piece of material without changing its volume or weight. Folds maximize the functionality of a material as seen when a piece of construction paper transforms into a standing crane or a jumping frog. In space engineering, origami is applied as a method of organizing luggage for space travel, increasing flexibility of spatial structures, and improving the accuracy of robotic motion. NASA's JPL, Jet Propulsion Laboratory, has the lead in origami space engineering. Origami, with its folds, compresses materials and packs them in the smallest of volumes. In the words of Robert Salazar, an intern at the laboratory, origami offers the potential to take a vast structure and get it to fit within the rocket, therefore greatly magnifying what we are capable of building in space. Not only is origami used for compression, but it's also used for robotic exploration. Starshade, an occulter in NASA's exoplanet exploration program, the New Worlds mission, prevents starlight from interfering with exoplanet pictures that the telescope takes. Its unfolding resembles a flower blooming. The petals spread out from the stem, which disconnects from the occulter and transforms into an independent telescope. Jeremy Kasdan, the principal investigator, expects that the mission will allow us to directly image Earth-sized rocky exoplanets. Origami makes this expansion possible without investing the energy and resources to have a human astronaut manually perform the mission. Origami space engineering teaches us that difficult problems often have simple solutions. Science celebrates discoveries and breaking new ground. You can go read this article, this essay. Those are just portions of the essay from the NewYorkTimes.com on origami and space engineering. Step is from EurekaAlert.org, where researchers use origami to solve space travel challenges. In this article, they mention being able to develop an origami-inspired folded plastic fuel bladder that doesn't crack at super cold temperatures and could someday use to store and pump fuel. And they have a cool picture of that showing exactly how it is folded. It's an origami-inspired folded plastic fuel bladder led by graduate students Jell Winstra and Jake Leachman, associate professor in the School of Mechanical and Materials Engineering. Researchers have published their work in the journal Cryogenics. The challenge of fuels management has been an important limiting factor in space travel, largely restricting space travel to either shorter trips for large amounts of cargo or to small satellites for long-duration missions. In the early days of the U.S. space program in the 1960s and 1970s, researchers tried to develop round balloons to store and pump liquid hydrogen fuel, but they failed. Every bladder would shatter or leak as they tried to squeeze it at the required very cold temperatures for liquid fuels. The hardiest designs only lasted 5 cycles. The researchers abandoned the effort and instead came to rely on less ideal propellant management devices. Systems use metal plates and the principle of surface tension to manage liquid fuels, but the systems are slow and can only dribble out fuels in small quantities, so the size of fuel tanks and missions are limited. Through a literature search, Westra came upon a paper in which researchers developed some origami-based bellows. Researchers started studying origami in the 1980s and 1990s with the idea of making use of its complex shapes and interesting mechanical behavior. The origami folds spread out stresses on the material, making it less likely to tear. Using a thin mylar plastic sheet, Wester and collaborators in the Hydrogen Properties for Energy Research Laboratory decided to apply the design he saw to developing a fuel bladder. Having never tried origami before, he took a couple of tries and a few hours with a YouTube video to figure out how to fold the bellows. Once he folded it, he tested it in liquid nitrogen at about 77 degrees Kelvin. The researchers found that the bladder can be squeezed at least 100 times without breaking or leaking under cold conditions. They've since demonstrated the bellows numerous times, and it still does not have holes in it. The researchers are now beginning to conduct more rigorous testing, and they plan to do testing with liquid hydrogen, how well they can store and expel fuel, and comparing the flow rates of their bladder with current systems. Wester recently received a NASA graduate fellowship to continue the project. So again, you can read more about this at eurekalert.org. One last thing from nasa.gov, solar power origami style. A high school student at a study program in Japan, Brian Treese, would fold papers from fast food cheeseburgers into cranes. He loved discovering different origami techniques in library books. Today, Treese, a mechanical engineer at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California, thinks about how the principles of origami could be used for space-bound devices. He says this is a unique crossover of art and culture and technology. Partnered with researchers at Brigham Young University in Provo, Utah, to pursue the idea that spacecraft components could be built effectively by implementing origami folds. Shannon Zerbel, a doctoral student at BYU, spent 2 summers at JPL working on these ideas, supported by the NASA Technology Research Fellowship with Treese as her research collaborator. Models in space missions already incorporate simple folds, collapsing like a fan or an accordion, but Treese and colleagues are interested in using more intricate folds that simplify the overall mechanical structure and make for easier deployment. One technique that has been used for origami-inspired solar array is called a Miura fold. This well-known origami fold was invented by Japanese astrophysicist Koryo Miura. When you open the structure, it appears to be divided evenly into a checkerboard of parallelograms. With this particular fold, there's only one way to open or close it. Pull on one corner and voila, the whole thing is open with minimal effort. The mechanical structure of a device that folds this way is greatly simplified because only one input is required to deploy it. Miura invented this fold for solar arrays, and in 1995, a solar panel with this design was unfolded on the Space Flyer unit, a Japanese satellite. Despite this test, the technology is still in its early stages, but now with an emphasis on small satellites and larger structures, Treese says arrays inspired by this fold could see renewed usefulness. The fold that Treese and colleagues used is not a Miura fold, but rather a combination of different folds. Treese's prototype looks like a blooming flower that expands into a large, flat, circular surface. Treese envisions that foldable solar arrays could be used in conjunction with small satellites called CubeSats. And he says the origami concept could be used in antennas as well. It could be especially appropriate for spacecraft applications where it's benefit to deploy an object radially, that is, from the center outward in all directions. Origami was originally intended for folding paper, which has almost no thickness, so Treese and colleagues have had to be creative when working with bulkier materials needed for solar panels. Origami has been the subject of serious mathematical analysis only within the last 40 years, Treese said. There is growing interest in integrating the concepts of origami with modern technologies. Tree said, you think of it as an ancient art, but people are still inventing new things enabled by mathematical tools. And on this page, again, it is solar power origami style on NASA.gov website. There is a link to a video that is a short video clip of the origami-inspired prototype. And the California Institute of Technology in Pasadena manages JPL for NASA. So that's an article that was from 2017. So I'm sure, these techniques have been being used. It'd be interesting to see the current and use of these in the field. So just thought that was a really interesting topic to think, here we think of origami as an ancient art, but we can apply it to technology and use it in our space exploration. This is KF5 TDS, Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. At this time, next in our program is Was Up. So at this time, I will turn the net over to Chaz, KF5JHA. The net is yours.
Thank you so much, Billy. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. My degree is in astrophysics, and I'm the astrophysics lab manager at Dallas College on the Brookhaven campus. And we do call this segment of Skynet Was Up. Slide Master, please, slide number 2. On August the 22nd, the moon was full, so the current phase of the moon is a waning gibbous. Tomorrow, on August 29th, the moon will be at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth. On August the 30th, the moon will be at its third quarter phase. On September the 6th, the moon will be new. On September the 11th, the moon will be at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that's closest to the Earth. On September the 13th, the moon will be at its first quarter phase. Slide number 3, please. On the night of August the 31st and September the 1st is the Auriga meteor shower. You can see about half a dozen meteors in an hour of watching the sky. We believe that this meteor shower is caused by Comet 1911N1, also known as Comet Keast. Meteor showers are caused by debris left behind as comets and asteroids make their way through the solar system. Slide number 4, please. On September the 7th, there will be a conjunction of the moon and Mars in the western evening sky. This will happen in strong twilight, so you might need a pair of binoculars to observe this. What I find is interesting right now is that all 5 visible planets with your naked eye are in the evening sky. Mars is very low in the western sky, then Mercury is above that, then Venus is up there. You can easily see Venus in the evening sky in the west right now. Then if you turn around and look toward the southeast, you'll find Jupiter is really bright, and above it and to the right is the planet Saturn. So all 5 naked eye visible planets are in the evening sky right now. Slide number 5, please. On September the 8th, there'll be a conjunction of the moon and Mercury in the western evening sky. Again, this is going to happen in strong twilight. A pair of binoculars is probably the best way to observe these things. Slide number 6, please. On the night of September the 8th and 9th, the September Epsilon Perseid meteor shower will be at its maximum. You can see about half a dozen of these meteors in about an hour of watching the sky. The best time to watch meteors is in between midnight and dawn, because this is the side of the Earth that's running into the meteoroids. Slide number 7, please. On September the 9th, there will be a conjunction of the moon and Venus in the western evening sky. Spica, the brightest star in Virgo, will just be underneath a pair of the moon and Venus. And slide number 8, please. On August the 8th, yes, it was August the 8th. I'm talking about back at the beginning of August. The star RS Ophiuchus flared with a brightness from around 12th magnitude all the way up to 4.5 in magnitude in just a few hours. This is not an ordinary thing for any star to do, but this star system, and it's a 2-star system, has been doing this strange thing for quite some time. Slide number 9, please. On August the 8th, when RS Ophiuchus was at magnitude 4.5, from which you could see in the city using a pair of binoculars. A week later, RS Ophiuchus was at magnitude 6.7, which could have been seen with difficulty using binoculars from inside DFW Metroplex. And a week ago, the magnitude was about 8, and tonight the magnitude is about magnitude 8.5. You probably need a telescope to see this. The video version of Skynet shows a finder chart for where to look, and for more details, you can search the internet for RS Ophiuchus or go to the website aavso.org. That stands for American Association of Variable Star the American Association of Variable Star Observers, to get more details. Carolyn, the person that did our constellation of the week, she was an avid observer of variable stars. And this is KF5 JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide number 10, please. So on September the 1st in 1859, yeah, we're coming up on the anniversary of this, Richard Carrigton observed on the sun what we now know as a white light flare associated with a coronal mass ejection. Bill was talking about one of those things just a little bit ago, a CME. This is one of the largest solar events of its kind in the last 200 years, though. Independently, another observer, Richard Hodgins, also observed the event. This CME took about 17.6 hours to make it, the 150-kilometer journey from the sun to the Earth. Most CMEs take a few days to make this journey, and it took it just a few hours. A geomagnetic solar flare effect was observed at the Key Observatory magnetometer by Scottish physicist Balfour Stewart. Slide number 11. This was the beginning of a very large geomagnetic storm. The effect, which lasted for several days. Auroras were seen all over the world, and in fact as far south as the Caribbean and Hawaii, and even Colombia, which is close to the equator. At times, the aurora light was brighter than that of the full moon. It was reported the aurora was so bright that over the Rocky Mountains that miners thought it was the morning twilight and began fixing breakfast. Slide number 12, please. At the time of the Carrigton event, the telegraph was the main technology. Telegraphs are run by using batteries. During the event, some telegraphs were able to be operated with batteries disconnected due to the high voltage being produced along the wires because of the intensity of the geomagnetic storm. Most telegraph systems eventually failed. Some fires were caused by the electrified telegraph lines. Many telegraph operators received electrical shocks. And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide number 13, please. These events may affect the Earth on average about every 150 years. Oh, if you start doing the calculation, that means we're overdue. Since 1859, we've observed some big solar events. One such occurred in 1921 that was less severe than the solar event that we call the Carrigton event. And another less severe solar event happened in 1960. In August 4th, 1972, a strange event occurred. The crew of the U.S. Task Force 77 aircraft flying near a naval minefield near North Vietnam observed 20 to 25 explosions over about a 30-second period of time. On August 15th, 1972, just a few days later, the Commander-in-Chief of the Pacific, Admiral Bernard Cleary, asked about a hypothesis that solar activity could have caused the mine detonations. There was an X-class solar flare that happened on August 4th, 1972. Seems like the most likely reason for that to happen. Slide number 14. On March the 13th, 1989, a geomagnetic storm, the result of solar activity, knocked out electricity to large sections of Quebec, Canada. Slide number 15, please. A series of solar flares in 2003 produced geomagnetic storms around Halloween of 2003, which resulted in wonderful aurora displays over the next few days. This solar activity was the strongest to date that a geosatellite system has recorded. Electricity outages occurred in Sweden, and the SOHO satellite was actually failed temporarily due to the overload on its system. Slide 16. What would happen if the Carrigton event happened directly to hit the Earth right now? It is estimated that all satellites would stop working. The entire electrical grid across the entire world would fail and probably be destroyed. Even small devices such as cell phones and computers could be damaged, but with no electricity, they would become useless very quickly because the cell towers wouldn't have any power. It is estimated that it would take more than 10 years to rebuild the electrical systems in the United States. Chopping wood and shooting squirrels for food in the backyard would become the norm for a long time to come. Slide number 17. Now, did any of you hams out there in Radio Land go to the HamCom in 2019 in Dallas? The last one we had. If you did attend HamCom, you may have attended the session with the space weather woman, Timothy Scove. I was looking forward to meeting her in person, but she presented virtually. Yep, she was a virtual pioneer way back then. Now we do almost everything that way. If you want to visit some information, she does regular broadcasts. SpaceWeatherWoman.com is the place to go. And this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 18, please. So again, the next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting will be on Friday, September the 24th at 7:30 p.m. It'll be virtual. We're not sure if we'll have a speaker, but we do have annual elections that day. If you want to get information about that, as well as observing sessions that we hope will resume sometime, go to texasastro.org for up-to-date information and details. Now, slide master number 19. Do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions or need to fill in any information, or do you just have a general astronomy question? I don't know everything, but I may know the answer to your question. Come now with your call sign if you have a question. Tom, I think you were right. Slide number 20. It's slow out there. So, as the moon waned at the beginning of August, so do these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live. And until next week, actually I'll be doing another Skynet segment in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is Chaz, KF5JHA, back to our net control Billy, KF5PDS.
Great. Thank you very much, Chaz. This is KF5PDS, Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. And we'll come back to you in just a little while. All right, next up is space exploration and space history. So at this time, I'm going to turn the net over to Kelly, K5KTX. The net is yours.
Thank you, Billy. This is K5KTX. Good evening to everyone. Well, after successful completion of its final test, NASA's James Webb Space Telescope is being prepped for shipment to its launch site, finally. Engineering teams have completed Webb's long-spanning comprehensive testing regimen at Northrop Grumman's facilities. Webb's many tests and checkpoints were designed to ensure that the world's most complex space science observatory will operate as designed once in space. Now that observatory testing has concluded, shipment operations have begun. This includes all the necessary steps to prepare Webb for a safe journey through the Panama Canal to its launch location in Kourou, French Guiana, on the northeastern coast of South America. Since no more large-scale testing is required, Webb's clean room technicians have shifted their focus from demonstrating it can survive the harsh conditions of launch and work in orbit to making sure it will safely arrive at the launch pad. Webb's contamination control technicians transport engineers, and logistics task forces are all expertly prepared to handle the unique task of getting Webb to the launch site. Shipping preparations will be completed in September. While shipment operations are underway, teams located in Webb's Mission Operations Center, or MOC, at the Space Telescope Science Institute in Baltimore will continue to check and recheck the complex communications network it will use in space. Recently, this network fully demonstrated that it is capable of seamlessly sending commands to the spacecraft. Live launch rehearsals are underway within the MOC with the explicit purpose of preparing for launch day and beyond. There is much to be done before launch, but with integration and testing formally concluded, NASA's next giant leap into the cosmic unknown will soon be underway. Once Webb arrives in French Guiana, launch processing teams will configure the observatory for flight. This involves post-shipment checkouts to ensure the observatory hasn't been damaged during transport. Carefully loading the spacecraft's propellant tanks with hydrazine fuel and nitrogen tetroxide oxidizer, it will need to power its rocket thrusters to maintain its orbit. And detaching remove before flight red tag items like protective covers that keep important components safe during assembly, testing, and transport. Then engineering teams will mate the observatory to its launch vehicle, an Ariane 5 rocket provided by the European Space Agency, before it rolls out to the launch pad. Webb is an international program led by NASA with its partners ESA and the Canadian Space Agency. The James Webb Space Telescope is an amazing feat of human ingenuity, made more impressive by the obstacles Webb personnel overcame to deliver this amazing space science observatory. Earthquakes, a devastating hurricane, snowstorms, blizzards, wildfires, and a global pandemic are only some of what the people behind Webb endured to ensure success. Webb's story is one of perseverance, a mission with contributions from thousands of scientists, engineers, and other professionals from more than 14 countries and 29 states in 9 different time zones. After launch, Webb will undergo an action-packed 6-month commissioning period. Moments after completing a 26-minute ride aboard the Ariane 5 launch vehicle, the spacecraft will separate from the rocket and its solar array will deploy automatically. After that, all subsequent deployments over the next few weeks will be initiated from ground control located at the Space Telescope Science Institute. Webb will take 1 month to fly to its intended orbital location in space nearly 1 million miles away from Earth, slowly unfolding as it goes. Sunshield deployments will begin a few days after launch, and each step can be controlled expertly from the ground, giving Webb's launch full control to circumnavigate any unforeseen issues with deployment. Once the sunshield starts to deploy, the telescope and instruments will enter shade and start to cool over time. Over the ensuing weeks, the mission team will closely monitor the observatory's cool down, managing it with heaters to control stresses on instruments and structures. In the meantime, the secondary mirror tripod will unfold, the primary mirror will unfold, Webb's instruments will slowly power up, and thruster firings will insert the observatory into a prescribed orbit. Once the observatory has cooled down and stabilized at its frigid operating temperatures, several months of alignments to its optics and calibrations of its scientific instruments will occur. Scientific operations are expected to commence approximately 6 months after launch. The launch was originally scheduled for Halloween, October 31st, but most likely this will be pushed a few days into November. So lots of exciting things to look forward there. Ended space history this past week. For 76 years, school children were taught that our solar system had 9 planets: Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Well, 15 years ago, on August the 24th, 2006, Pluto lost its planetary status and the world's perception of our solar system changed. The International Astronomical Union, or IAU, is the official entity responsible for naming and classifying all bodies in outer space, and when they met in Prague, Czech Republic, In August of 2006, there was a vigorous debate about the definition of objects in our solar system. At the end of the meeting, the IAU voted to classify a planet as a celestial body that A, is in orbit around the sun, B, has sufficient mass for its self-gravity to overcome rigid body forces so that it assumes a hydrostatic equilibrium, nearly round shape, and C, has cleared the neighborhood around its orbit. Pluto meets the first two criteria, but not the third, so it falls into the new category of dwarf planet. While the definition of a planet remains stable for most of the 20th century, objects in our solar system have been recategorized before. For example, Ceres was originally classified as a planet, but was later redesignated as an asteroid. Under the new definition, it is now a dwarf planet. Well, and Alan Stern thinks it's still a planet, so I still think it's a planet. All right, August the 25th, back in 2003, the Spitzer Space Telescope was launched from Cape Canaveral. It was the fourth and final of the NASA Great Observatories program. It was named for astronomer Lyman Spitzer, who first promoted the concept of a space telescope in the 1940s. The planned mission was to be 2.5 years, but the mission actually ended last year on January the 30th. On August the 26th, back in 1918, was the birthday of NASA research mathematician Katherine Johnson. Johnson, whose story is recounted in Margot Lee Shetterly's Hidden Figures, was one of the women who worked on the computations for early space flights. From a young age, she was on track to make history, graduating from high school at age 14 and college at 18. She worked as a teacher and stay-at-home mother for a number of years. Then in 1953, she began working for the NACA as one of the female mathematicians known as computers. At NASA Langley Research Center, she calculated trajectories for Albert and John Glenn's Mercury missions. Her work on orbital rendezvous calculations was fundamental to the success of the Apollo lunar missions. Johnson worked as a mathematician for NASA until 1986. In 2015, President Barack Obama awarded her a Medal of Freedom, America's highest civilian honor. She passed away on February 24th of 2020 at the age of 101. And on August the 28th, today, I believe it's August 28th, way back in 1789, the German-born British astronomer Sir William Herschel discovered Saturn's moon Enceladus during the first use of his new 1.2-meter telescope, then the largest in the world. William Herschel's son, John Herschel, suggested the name after the giant Enceladus of Greek mythology. Little was known about it until the two Voyager spacecraft passed nearby in the early 1980s. In 2005, NASA's Cassini mission to Saturn started multiple close flybys of Enceladus, revealing its surface and environment in greater detail. And in astronaut birthdays for this past week, well, there's a whole bunch, so I am only just going to briefly mention their names and their birthdays, and not all of their missions that they were on. You can look that up. But August the 22nd, 1932, Gerald Carr. August the 23rd, 1956, David Wolf. In 1967 was Dominic Antonelli. Then August the 24th, we have a whole bunch. 1944 was Gregory Jarvis, who we lost in the Challenger explosion. 1946, Richard Richards. 1949, Anna Lee Fisher. And 1960, Steve Lindsay. And 1962, Mary Ellen Weber. August the 25th birthdays, 1960, Lee Archambault. 1965, Andrew Feistel. Then August the 26th birthdays include 1932, Joe Engel. 1942, John Blaha. 1959, Catherine Heyer. And then today, August 28th, 1960, Leroy Child. And that's all I've got for this evening. This is K5KTX.
Thank you very much, Kelly. This is KFI-PDS, Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Next up is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. Before we go to this, let me send it over to Tom, KE5ICX, if you'll do a quick check-in round, see if you have some folks that have been waiting to check in, and then you have my permission to turn it directly over to Chaz after you do a check-in round. So this is to KE5ICX from KF5PDS.
All right, thank you, Billy. And this is KE5ICX. I'm going to take over air, and then I'll go to Echolink. Anybody over air would like to join us, please come now with your call sign, name, and where you're transmitting from.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth.
Shane. I'm Bethany, Blue Springs. Hi, Dallas.
Okay, I did pick up two. There's probably a third one there. I've got KB9SOK, that's Shane in Fort Worth. And we have W0MBC, that's Shane and Bethany over in Blue Springs. Did we get any additional check-ins? Anyone else like check-in? Please come now.
Golf 5, Zulu Mike Golf, Joe in Arlington.
Okay, we picked up one more. We got KG5ZMG, that's Joe over in Arlington. All right, let's go ahead and move on to Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. Chaz, KF5JHA, run back to the radio. You're next from KE5ICX.
Cat. Well, I just let the cat outside. I was trying to wake up that dog behind you, Tom. It looks like he's dead back there behind you, but I'm sure he's just asleep over there. Yes, Slide Master, slide number 21, please. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent Key Carolyn KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year, out of the 88 total constellations, Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky in a year. In her honor, we have continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named that segment after her. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is Scutum, the Shield, and Corona Australis, the Southern Crown. So it's a two for tonight. These two constellations, the Southern Crown and the Shield, are south and north of Sagittarius. Since they both have the Milky Way running through them, they have a wide variety of different objects to observe. Corona Australis, the Southern Crown, is also known by the Greeks as a wreath, not just a crown. Before Ptolemy introduced its stars as a separate constellation, Corona Australis was also a circlet of stars at the 4 feet of the Centaur Sagittarius. It's also one of the smallest constellations in the sky. It's the 80th in size. Occupies an area of 128 square degrees. Scutum, the Shield, is one of the more modern constellations. It was created in 1684 by astronomer Helvetius, who named it Scobeski's Shield. It's in honor of King John III Scobeski, I think that's how to pronounce his name, of Poland. Scutum is the only modern constellation introduced for political reasons. It is the 5th smallest constellation in the sky, or Scutum is the 84th constellation in size, occupying an area of 109 squared degrees. Now, this is what all of you have been waiting for the entire night. Oh, there we go. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's Bethany or Shane that was typing in, show me a joke. Right now, you're going to get it verbally right now. Here it is, slide number 22. So, you know, these are usually related to the constellation of the week. So here we go. You know, I got to say, I'm a big fan of shields. They're really something you can get behind. All right, I might need to explain this next one, but I hope you can get this. What do you call the Incredible Hawk when he picks up Captain America's shield? The Star-Spangled Banner. You see, the Incredible Hawk had the last name of Banner, you know. Yeah, okay, I'm sorry, I had to explain that one. Okay, the next one. Where does Wonder Woman get her shield from? Amazon, of course. Okay. The next one. Did you, why did the king go to the dentist to get his teeth crowned? See, we're talking about the Southern Crown right now. Okay, and this is the last one for tonight. Well, at least for a while anyway. Did you hear about the newborn baby? It was his first crowning achievement. Slide master, slide number 23, please. I'd like to talk about one star in Corona Australis, Meridiana, I believe how you pronounce it. It's Alpha Corona Australis, which is a class A25 star, which is an apparent magnitude of 4.1. It's about 130 light years in distance. It's the only named star in the constellation. It's got its name as the Southern Alphecca, which is after Alphecca, which is the brightest star in the northern constellation of Corona Borealis. Slide number 24. So, Corona Australis Nebula is the bright reflection nebula, about 420 light years in distance, formed by several bright stars caught up in a dark cloud of dust. The cloud is a famous star-forming region with clusters of young stars embedded within it. It consists of three nebulas, NGC 6726, NGC 6727, NGC 6729. The molecular cloud complex in the region is one of the nearest areas with recent or ongoing immediate, intermediate, and low-mass star formation. Slide number 25. Coronet cluster is located 420 light years away from the Earth and stretches about 10 light years across. Coronet cluster is a relatively loose cluster with only a few dozen stars, many of which is only a few million years old. It's one of the nearest... Oh, wait, I just talked about that, didn't I? No. It's not quite as well known as a star-forming cousin, the Orion Nebula. The Corona Australis region, containing the heart of the Corona cluster, is the nearest and most active regions of star formation. So this is a cluster inside the other object I was talking about. Okay, slide number 26. Alpha Scuti is the brightest star in this constellation, with an orange giant star with stellar classification of K2-3. 3 as a designation as a giant star. It has an apparent magnitude of 3.85 and approximately 174 light years in distance from the Earth. The star used to belong to Aquila constellation and was previously designated as 1 Aquilae. It's known as a variable star, with a brightness varying from by about 10%. Alpha Scuti is 132 times more luminous than the Sun and has a mass about 1.7 times the mass of our Sun. It's believed to be at least 2 billion years old. An old thing, isn't it? Slide number 27. M11 was discovered in 1681 at the Berlin Observatory. Couldn't resolve it into individual stars. The astronomer couldn't at that time. Its true nature was not discovered until 1732 by William Duran of England. In 1844, the renowned British astronomer Admiral William Smith described M11 as a flight of wild ducks in shape, and that's how it got its nickname. M11 is easily found in binoculars or a finder scope. Just looked at it last night with a pair of binoculars, is what I did. In smaller telescopes, the cluster has a triangular V shape, forming the flock of wild ducks, so it's called the wild duck cluster. The 8th magnitude star at the apex of the V is not a cluster member, but a foreground star. But I think of it as the lead duck. Slide number 28, please. M26 is a small, loose, open cluster. It's quite in contrast to M11. M26 is much more sparsely populated and is noticeably smaller than M11. Robert Burnham noted from Admiral Smith, described M26 as a coarse but bright cluster of stars in a fine, condensed part of the Milky Way, which sums it up pretty nicely, as the whole constellation of Scutum is taken up by the Scutum star cloud, which is the brightest part of the Milky Way outside of Sagittarius. And this is KF5, JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide number 29, please, Slide Master. There are more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation of Scutum, the Shield, and Corona Australis, the Southern Crown. I've just given you a sampling of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has over 70 different observing programs. In fact, I believe it's 73, most of which have about 100 objects. So if you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pen in about a year. Slide number 30. And that is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, Scutum the Shield, and Corona Australis, the Southern Crown. I want to thank my friends David Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for their research on the words of deep sky objects that I've used, borrowed, and stolen for tonight, as I do almost every Saturday night. I also at times use the website constellation-guide.com for information. And next time, I'll take a look at the constellation of Aquila, the Eagle. Tom, you should have waited and worn your T-shirt with an eagle on it for next week. And this is KF5JJ sending it back to our net control, Billy. KF5PDS. Everyone have a great evening.
Thank you very much, Chaz. All right, at this time, I'll turn the net over to Tom, KE5ICX, for space launches for this week from KF5PDS.
All right, thank you, Billy. And it's still here. It actually passed, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. There was the rocket 3.3 that launched this afternoon from Pacific Spaceport Complex at Kodiak Island, Alaska. If you get a chance to see it, the replay of it from this afternoon, the rocket lifted off about 20, 30 feet in the air. It slid to the right about 30, 40, 50 feet, and then struggled as it headed towards orbit. As it reached several miles up, and the second stage was supposed to separate, some space debris from the side of the rocket came flying off, and you could see it in the picture. It tumbled out of control and crashed. So it was quite interesting. I've never really seen a rocket kind of take off, wobble, and go to the right, and then actually go through maximum dynamic pressure and try to head to orbit. So that was a commercial small satellite launch, was developed by Astra and will launch a non-deployable test payload. So they're still testing this rocket booster. August 29th, Falcon 9, SpaceX rocket will launch a Dragon 2 spacecraft on its third cargo resupply mission to the International Space Station. The flight is the 23rd mission of SpaceX conducted under the Commercial Resupply Services contract with NASA. We have late August, Electron Black Sky 10 and 11, which will launch from Launch Complex 1A in Mahia Peninsula, New Zealand. The Rocket Lab Electron rocket will launch 2 satellites from Black Sky's commercial fleet of Earth observation spacecraft. Rocket Lab has nicknamed the mission Love at First Insight. Did you hear that? In September, to be determined, is Falcon 9 Starlink 2-1 from SLC-4E from Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. The Falcon 9 rocket will launch the first dedicated mission with Starlink Internet satellites from Vandenberg. This mission will deploy the unspecified number of Starlink satellites into high inclination orbit. On September 14th, Soyuz OneWeb 10 will launch from Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. The Russian Soyuz rocket will launch 34 satellites into orbit for OneWeb, which is developing constellations of hundreds of satellites in low Earth orbit for low-latency broadband communications. September 15th, another Falcon 9, Inspiration 4, which will launch from Launch Complex 39A, Kennedy Space Center. It'll be the Crew Dragon spacecraft on its first all-private, all-civilian orbital mission known as Inspiration 4. The mission is organized to raise money for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. The mission is commanded by billionaire Jared Isaacman, who will be joined by scientist and educator Cian Proctor, medical officer Healy Arkano, and mission specialist Christopher Sembrowski. And that's it. That's what I have. Back to net control. This is KE5ICX.
Thank you very much, Tom. And next up is recent astronomical discoveries. So at this time, I'll turn the net over to Brenda, WB50ZL. The net is yours.
Thank you, Billy. This is WB50ZL. This article is entitled Unveiling a Century-Old Mystery, Where the Milky Way's Cosmic Rays Come From. Astronomers have succeeded for the first time in quantifying the proton and electron components of cosmic rays and a supernova remnant. At least 70% of the very high-energy gamma rays emitted from cosmic rays are due to relativistic protons, according to the novel imaging analysis of radio, X-ray, and gamma ray radiation. The acceleration site of protons, the main components of cosmic rays, has been a 100-year mystery in modern astrophysics. This is the first time that the amount of cosmic rays being produced in a supernova remnant has been quantitatively and is an epoch-making step in the elucidation of the origin of cosmic rays. The origin of cosmic rays, the particles with the highest energy in the universe, has been a great mystery since their discovery in 1912. Because cosmic rays promote the chemical evolution of interstellar matter, understanding their origin is critical in understanding the evolution of our galaxy. The cosmic rays are thought to be accelerated by supernova remnants, the after effects of supernova explosions in our galaxy, and travel to the Earth at almost the speed of light. Recent progress in gamma ray observations has revealed that many supernova remnants emit gamma rays at tera-electron volts, TeV, energies. If gamma rays are produced by protons, which are the main component of cosmic rays, then the supernova remnant origin of cosmic rays can be verified. However, gamma rays are also produced by electrons. It is necessary to determine whether the proton or electron output origin is dominant and to measure the ratio of the two contributions. The results of this study provide compelling evidence of gamma rays originating from the proton component, which is the main component of cosmic rays, and clarify that galactic cosmic rays are produced by supernova remnants. The originality of this research is that gamma ray radiation is represented by a linear combination of proton and electron components. Astronomers knew a relation that the intensity of gamma ray from protons is proportional to the interstellar gas density obtained by radio line imaging observations. On the other hand, gamma rays from electrons are also expected to be proportional to X-ray intensity from electrons. Therefore, they expressed the total gamma ray intensity as the sum of two gamma ray components, one from the proton origin and the other from the electron origin. This led to a unified understanding of three independent observables. This method was first proposed in this study. As a result, it was shown that gamma rays from protons and electrons account for 70% and 30% of the total gamma rays, respectively. This is the first time that the two origins have been quantified. The results also demonstrate that gamma rays from protons are dominated in interstellar gas-rich regions, whereas gamma rays from electrons are enhanced in the gas-poor region. This confirms that the two mechanisms work together in supporting the predictions of previous theoretical studies. The novel method could not have been accomplished without intentional collaborations, says Emeritus Professor Yasuo Fukiu at Nagoya University. He led this project and has accurately quantified interstellar gas density distribution using the Nantin radio telescope and Australia telescope compact array since 2003. Although the gamma ray resolution was insufficient to perform a full analysis at that time, Professor Gavin Rowell and Dr. Sabrina Eineke of the University of Adelaide and the AGSS team dramatically improved the spatial resolution and sensitivity of gamma rays over the years, making it possible to compare them precisely with interstellar gas. Dr. Hidetoshi Sano of the National Astronomical Observatory of Japan led the X-ray imaging analysis of archival data sets from the European X-ray satellite XMM Newton. Dr. Eineke and Professor Rowell worked closely with Professor Fukai and Dr. Sano on making the detailed studies that examine the correlations between gamma ray, X-ray, and radio emission. This novel method will be applied to more supernova remnants using the Next Generation Gamma Ray Telescope, CTA, in addition to the existing observatories, which will greatly advance the study of the origin of cosmic rays. All right, that's the end. This is WB5OZL.
Thank you, Brenda. I think because we're running short on time, I'm going to skip over the visible satellite passages, but just want to let you know that you can go to www.heavens-above.com, a website to find out what's in orbit and where to look during flyovers. At this time, I'll turn the net back over to Tom, KE5ICX, if you'll do a final check-in round and get me a total head count for this net. I'd appreciate it. So this is to KE5ICX from KF5PDS.
And this is KE5ICX. I'll take final check-ins. If you'd like to be counted in on this net this evening, please come now with your call sign, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
KF53K, Jarrett and Euless. Recheck.
Kilo 5, Juliet Delta Whiskey, John and Coppell with a check-in and a comment.
more. I've got the Euless check-in. Could I get your call sign phonetically? I've got KF5 and then question mark, question mark.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Quebec Echo Kilo.
Oh, very good. And your name, please?
My name is Jared.
Normal
I'm
state.
in Euless.
Thank you. I've got KF5QAK, that's Jared over in Euless, and I got K5JDW, John and Capel. John, you had a comment. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Thomas. About Billy's report on origami earlier, I've been watching engineers study that. They've been fascinated with it for at least, probably more than 10 years. 10 years is when I came into it. Been watching them. I watched them do the solar panel thing like she was saying. It's a great way to deploy stuff. Also, I've been watching, she was the other thing. Yeah, they're even looking at maybe solar, wind, sails, stuff like that that can be deployed in space, and even looking towards the future, possible housing, because origami allows stuff to fit into such small containers. K5 JDW.
Very good. Thank you, John. And yeah, I agree with you.
I'm completely operational, and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow movie origami is now a science amazing thing. It has true application in science, as Billy brought out this evening. All right, I have anyone else want to check in before I give the final count and we close the net?
That was actually Kilo Foxtrot 5, Quebec Echo Kilo.
And N5BB, recheck still.
Okay, very good. I've got Kilo Fox 5, Quebec Echo Kilo. I wrote that down, but I must have said something else. And then Bill, go ahead, Bill. N5BB.
Yes, Tom, I had a quick question about your report of the rocket that took off, that slid on the side, and then went up. I didn't understand somewhere where I can go and look that up. The name of the launch company or something about that launch so I can go look it up. N5BB.
Yeah, Bill, I believe the name of the company is Astra. They're looking to do polar orbit stuff, high inclination, out of Kodiak, Alaska, and this is the sixth vehicle that they've built, booster that they've built. Number 7 is currently in production, but this is not operational yet. They actually had a dummy payload, but it is quite amazing when you watch it. It is on YouTube. Look for it there. Kodiak, Alaska launch, and I think it's Astra is the name of the company.
Thank you, N5BB clear.
All right, Miss Billy, I have 22 check-ins this evening, KE5ICX.
Copy that we had 22 hams participating on the air, so thank you to all who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We are always looking for net control stations for this and all the other DARC nets. If you would like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful sources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. So until next Saturday night, this is KF5 PDS, Billy, and I'll be closing the net at 22:32 local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. 7-3 everyone, and enjoy the evening discovering the universe. And remember, following this net is the Afterglow movie net, where they'll be discussing the movie Thrill Seekers. 73 everybody.
for Thrill Seekers, the Afterglow Movie Net movie in about 5 minutes. Come back then. So we'll be back in 5 minutes. This is KE5ICX.
Great net, everyone. Thanks. And just a reminder, the hurricane net was geared up a little bit because of Henri, and it's really gearing up now for Ida. You ought to check it out. A lot of traffic will be increasing pretty soon. K5JW.
N5OSY. N5OSY from W5GUS. N5OSY, N5OSY from W5GUS. Did you ever get the dipole up and tuned? Nothing heard. W5GUS clear.
K5ICX, this is N5BB. Tom, are we going to have an Afterglow net tonight?
Why, yes, Bill. I mentioned it several times. You must have run away. Yeah, it's going to start here in a few minutes. I didn't ask for a net control, but I had to go and take a bio break, so I'm back.
Okay, I just didn't hear anything but some other stations talking after the end of the net. N5BB.
Okie doke. This is KE5ICX. If anybody would like to volunteer for net control, Bill graciously did it last week, so I'm not going to lean on him. Anybody want to be net control this evening? Come forward like Spartacus with your call sign. Well, you're never going to learn to be net control if you don't try and be net control. But that's okay. Hang on, let me get set up here. All right, this is Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray. My name's Tom. I'll be net control tonight for the Afterglow Movie Net. The Afterglow Movie Net is a weekly net that starts around 10:30, sometimes a little later, depending on how long Star. I can't remember the name. Skynet. Boy, oh boy. I'm a little tired, even though I had a nap this afternoon, so forgive me if I'm a little slow. I'm more so than normal. So what we do is we talk about a movie we've agreed upon to watch, and in this case, the movie is called Thrill Seekers from 1999, science fiction television film that was directed by Mario Azzopardi and starring Casper Van Den, Catherine Bell, Julian Riching, and Martin Sheen, who phoned in his performance. It was filmed in Hamilton and Toronto, Ontario, Canada. So, it's a time travel movie. Yes, it's one of those, and I'll read you the synopses here in just a moment. The first thing we do is, after the synopses, they take check-ins, and then after that, we discuss, in order, what you thought about the plot, the characterizations and acting usually, as well as any special effects or lack thereof that might be in the film. And if we go, depending on how long we go, of course, we may have another round. Anything goes, whatever you want to talk about. You do not necessarily have to have seen the movie. If you have something that you have to say about time travel, this is a good net to discuss it, because every time travel film has its advantages and disadvantages, and we talk about them all the time. So if you want to bring something up and say, how could that happen? That's fine. You got probably other people that feel exactly the same way. So you don't have to, you can still check into the net with whether you saw the movie or not. So let me go ahead and read through the plot a little bit. Oh my gosh. It's a long plot. I'll see if I can summarize a little bit. Here we go. This is the plot, and then I'll take check-ins. It says here Tom Merrick, who is played by Van Dien, is a TV reporter filming a live segment on a fire at a power plant. He spots a creepy-looking man, causing him to move away from his crew. This accidentally saves his life as the crew is killed in a partial collapse of the building. After the accident, Merrick gives up his job as a reporter and begins working for a magazine. In June of 2000, while researching catastrophes, this is the future, by the way, Merrick finds several pictures of a man from the power plant who appears to turn up in different disasters. Surprise, the sinking of the Titanic, Hindenburg, and Hurricane Hugo, but who still looks the same in all the pictures. Merrick's boss, Eleanor, books him to a flight in Washington, D.C. to get the original photographs. On the plane, he spots a man in the power plant and photos and checks his luggage. He finds a flyer and discovers a future enterprise, Thrill Seekers, which will make time travel possible in the year 2070, and will sell trips to the past to allow travelers to visit a catastrophe before it occurs, but are able to travel back in time again before they are killed. Merrick finds out that the flight he is on will be involved in a mid-air collision, killing everyone on board. Merrick forces the pilots to change change course, which saves the plane from crashing. The mysterious man disappears before landing. Merrick is arrested by the FBI and charged with aircraft hijacking. Agent Baker is sure about the hijacking attempt, while his partner, Agent Stanton, believes Merrick's story. I want to believe. The averted disaster causes changes in the future where Grafasi, played by Sheen, the head of the thrill seekers, sends agents Cortez and Felder to the past to stop Merrick. The agents kidnap Merrick, but he is able to escape and hide. Merrick contacts his colleague Elizabeth for help. They head to Chicago subway where, according to the future itinerary, the next catastrophe will take place. They spot the man from the previous events and board the same plane. Merrick confronts the man and takes his time travel device. The engineer appears unconscious. The train accelerates uncontrollably. Merrick manages to disconnect the locomotive from the rest of the train, but the time traveler remains behind and is killed. Cortez and Felder are informed by Grissy that the prevention of the train wreck has a huge impact on the future. Agents whose own timelines are protected by containment fields around the time machine in the future are warned that these changes may even prevent them from returning to their own timeline. While checking the time-traveling device, Merrick learns of another catastrophe, a fire at Cops Coliseum, which could kill over 11,000 people, including his ex-wife and son. Unable to convince them not to go, Merrick tells the FBI about the coming disaster. They manage to put out, while Baker is still suspicious, he decides to be cautious and has firefighters dispatched. They manage to put out a fire in the stadium restaurant, which was the probable cause of the disaster. Fender and Cortez are now informed by Griff Fassi that the timeline has been severely altered and the world they know no longer exists, with millions of people in California being killed under a nuclear reactor melted down 22 earlier in the new timeline. The agents are also unable to return because they learned that one of the surviving passengers from the averted plane crash killed the inventor of the time travel device and the car crashed before he could invent it. The only way to reset the timeline is to make sure Cops Coliseum fire occurs in order to prevent the timeline from altering too much to be recoverable, and then getting a nosebleed yet, then to travel to the past to prevent Merrick from saving the lives of people who will go on to cause the California disaster in the future. The agents pursue Merrick and blow up his car with Elizabeth in it, then travel to the stadium and plant multiple explosive devices. The explosives kill Merrick's ex-wife and son. Merrick uses the time travel device and returns to the time before Elizabeth is killed. Surprise! Merrick and Elizabeth manage to partially evacuate the stadium before the agents set up the explosives. Fender now regrets his actions, kills Cortez, and then is killed by the falling rubble. Sounds like Aida. As he dies, Fender recognizes Stanton as the inventor of the time machine and tells him not to invent it. But Stanton appears not to understand the warning. Merrick, along with Elizabeth, his ex-wife, and son, survive the accident. Merrick and Elizabeth share a kiss while a group of time travelers watch the scene. Okay, that's the story, so let's go ahead and take check-ins now. I'll take your call sign, phonetically please, your name. You can tell me where you're from or where you live or what time you're from, or time zone, that's okay, it's a little smaller thing. And then whether you saw today's movie or this week's movie, Thrill Seekers. So you got that? Call sign, name, where you're transmitting from, and did you see Thrill Seekers? Let's begin. Please come now.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo, Irving, Coordinated Universal Time. Yes, I saw the movie. Bill.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, I've seen the movie.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas. I have not seen the movie.
Okay, I've got 3. Boy, it's light tonight. I hope whatever is on TV is really exciting. I've got N5BB, Bill and Irving. Yep, he saw the movie. KB9SOK, Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, he saw the movie. Tony, NT5TM in Dallas. No, he did not see the movie. Additional check-ins, please come now.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brenda DeSoto.
WB50ZL, Brenda in DeSoto. Brenda, did you see the film?
Yes, I did.
Oh, yeah. Okie doke. Any additional check-ins? You don't have to necessarily have seen Thrill Seekers, but anybody who'd like to join us, please come now.
Kilo Golf 5 Bravo Zulu Whiskey J near Wedford, and I am from a time before I saw the film.
Alright, I'm sorry, Jay. I should have called on Echolink. KG5BZW, I got Jay in there. Anyone else like to join us? Echolink or local? Please come now. Alright, well, that's enough people to discuss the movie, even if you didn't see the movie. So we'll start with, we'll go down the list. N5BB, Bill over in Irving. You saw the film. What did you think of the plot from KE5ICX?
Well, thank you, Tom. This is N5BB. I thought the plot was okay. I wasn't sure how they were going to close up the last portion of the movie after Catherine Bell, that character, got killed off. And I figured they had to somehow go back in time, and I wasn't sure how he could do that, but he seemed to figure it out somehow. And suck back the bad people with him. I thought it was kind of an interesting idea. These time not vacationers. They were thrill seekers, obviously. I was a little confused about the danger of it, though, because the guy was on the train that was going to crash. And I didn't really understand why he would want to be on the train that was going to crash, because it sounds like a little risky thing to do. If you've got to rely on somebody else to pull you out, you can't just push a button and automatically go. Somebody else had to actually activate the mechanism at another time. So I didn't understand why they weren't just sitting safely off near the disaster. It's like if you were going to film or witness the Hindenburg, I would rather be on the ground a safe distance away rather than being on the Hindenburg when it happened. Anyway, so I had no major difficulties with the plot, and I thought it was a reasonably fun movie for a made-for-TV movie. N5BB.
Very good. Thank you, Bill. We'll be back to you in a little bit. KB9SOK, Sean, you saw it. What did you think about the plot from KE5ICX?
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Well, this is your typical time travel movie, the whole, alternate event, and it alters the future. And for the most part, they followed it pretty well. Sometimes these movies have the tendency to break their own rules, but for the most part, they followed it. But it was a little confusing, I agree with Bill, on how that tablet worked. Because at one point, they did insinuate that the control had to pull you out right before the disaster. But then later in the movie, we've seen our hero, he uses the tablet to jump back in time by selecting a disaster. So it looked like he was in control and not really the remote from the future. So there they kind of broke a little bit of their own ruling and didn't really 100% explain that. And another spot where they kind of broke the rules was, when the hero decided to go back before the gas station incident, when he triggered it to go back, it took the bad guys with him, which, yes, the bad guys would have been originally on their way to the gas station, but they should have had memory of it, and they did. And I guess they sort of tried to explain that with, I guess they pressed the buttons almost simultaneously, but he beat them out somehow or another. So that part was a little flaky, but once again, they had to have some way to get the heroes and the bad guys back in the same time, so fighting each other again. So there it slipped a little bit. But all in all, for a time travel movie, yeah, it wasn't bad, especially made for TV. It had pretty well-known actors, TV actors. So yeah, it wasn't too bad. It at least kept my interest through the movie. I never fell asleep or wanted to shut it off, so that's usually a good sign. But yeah, just kind of that standard kind of thing. Anyway, back to Net Control. This is KB9SOK.
Okay, thank you, Sean. And when you made that sort of a comment, you said, "Oh, it wasn't a bad movie. I didn't shut it off or throw a shoe at my television set." I guess it kind of tells us just what a low bar we set with the films that we watch. And speaking of low bars, Tony, NT5TM. Tony, I know you didn't see the film, but that's okay. Time travel conundrums. Tell us about them from KE5ICX.
Well, I'm glad you said my name really loudly to get my attention. I don't know. I did not have even a ghost of time to see this, whether it was fun or not. I do always like to mention other things I read. The old short story Air Raid, which led to a odd novel called Millennium, which led to a really bad movie called Millennium, starring Chris Christopherson, of all people. Don't watch that movie. Makes me think of that as they try to rescue people from doomed airliners, and of course people on the airliners often get suspicious of who are these strange people and what's happening, and why is it that many of the people on this doomed airliner have been replaced with dummies, and why am I still here? That's because you were supposed to be maimed or something but survive, so they had to leave you there. So it's, I don't know, time travel is very difficult, and I think that it is probably beyond me to try to resolve the paradoxes in time travel safely. So I will, I'll just listen to how they tried to resolve it in the movie without trying to time travel myself, except forwards. NT5TM.
All right, very good. You stepped aside of the whole thing, which is good. That side, I think that's sliders, something. Not time travel. Remember, in sliders, they just went to alternate worlds, even though it was always the same time. All right, next up, Brenda, wake up, WB5OZL. You saw this film. What did you think of the plot, please, from KE5ICX?
This is WB5OZL. Okay,
what kind of a travel business just has one dang customer? How can they make any money at all? I know he's a repeat customer, so obviously he's got some satisfaction, but I just don't think they can make money this way. You'd think they need a whole cruise ship full of customers to sell this, and that's got to be tricky, pulling people out of a disaster at the last split second. And I even question that premise, because you got a guy who's on a plane that's about to have a mid-air collision, and you got to get him out before he dies. But this is an event that happens in a fraction of a second, and timing is very critical. But he's the best parts if they pull him out to save his life, and so I don't know. I even question why anybody would want to do this. I don't want to see a bunch of people die and get mangled, but that's just me. I'm told, hey, that's why everybody watches NASCAR. Well, I don't watch NASCAR, so I don't relate to it. And I'm not much one to look at wrecks and see horrible things. So, I don't know that, I'd rather go to the Grand Canyon and look at that than watch a bunch of people get blown to bits. But that's just me. I actually enjoyed the movie. It was well paced, and it was interesting, and it made you think. So I think all that part was good. I liked the actors, and I thought it was fairly well written, actually, and the music was pretty good. But other than the plot holes, other than that, it wasn't too bad. All right, back to Nat, WB50ZL.
Thank you, Brenda. You already wandered into some other stuff. Well, I got some stuff on plot in a little bit here. Next up is Jay, KG5BZWJ. Your thoughts on the plot for Thrill Seekers, the 1999 made-for-TV Canadian movie from KE5ICX.
This is KG5BZW. So I kind of lied a little bit ago when I said I didn't see it. I saw the first bit until there was the brochure, and at that point I just froze, because I was imagining just thousands of people traveling back in time to see all these things and blah blah blah, and it just. I didn't want, that was too big of a hole to even resolve. So I guess I kind of partially listened to this just to see how they resolved it, and among other things, I see that there was only one person apparently that was sent back in time. They made a brochure for that one person. I don't know why would they do that. I don't know. I just was not able to convince myself to get beyond that. I actually I watched Catherine Bell and a number of things, but that was just I could not. Even that actress couldn't save my interest in this film, so it was gone at that point. So I'm kind of surprised there had all of these other elements to it, but I'm still really not. I just can't do it. Q5BTW.
Thank you, Jay. And this is KE5ICX and net control for the Afterglow Movie Net. Today's movie we're discussing is Thrill Seekers from 1999. I'll take additional check-ins before I make my comments. Anyone else like to join us this evening? Whether you saw the movie or not, in material, just tell us you're out there. Please come with your call sign, name, where you're transmitting from if you'd like, and then did you see Thrill Seekers? Please come now.
Fine, just for you, I'll check in, but I didn't see the movie. W29V, plain O.
BB recheck.
Okay, I got WT9V. Michael in Plano, he says no, he didn't see the movie, but I think he has, but that's okay. And Bill, go ahead, N5BB.
Well, this is N5BB. Well, during my earlier comments, I forgot to say the biggest plot hole is, of course, the big problem you have in a time travel movie when somebody moves back in time to the same place where they were originally when they went through it the first time. Are they going to encounter their previous self? Or does your previous self get somehow replaced by you for some crazy reason? So they completely ignored that in this movie. So what it appeared was that when he went back in time, he appeared in the car and he was in the driver's seat replacing himself because he kind of had some loss of control there, and he had to regain control of the car. And the Catherine Bell character said, what happened? She had no idea, so she did not go back in time, obviously, because she was dead in the future. So, of course, movies like this, they very rarely describe how things really work. Like, there's no description of how this worked. It was a pretty low-budget movie, so they only showed the little window what the future even looked like. You just saw one person on a camera, and that was pretty low quality. They must not have invented 4K videos. And, but that was the thing that bothered me the most about the plot as far as a problem with it, was when they went back in time, how did they mysteriously replace their previous selves? The same thing for the two bad guys. They somehow must have replaced their previous selves when they went back. N5BB.
Well, thank you, Bill, and you touched upon a couple of things that I was going to touch upon, but it's not too hard to beat up on time travel movies. This one is no exception to the rule. Your comment's exactly right. I agree. Shouldn't you have duplicates of yourself if that happens? Apparently not. That would cause too many complicating factors. Another thing here that always drives me nuts is, and this one, I don't know if it would have been more of an interesting plot twist, I think, but the thing that we learn is Merrick discovers that this is a person from the future. The creepy-looking guy was from the future, and that if he prevents a disaster, alters, in this case, the airplane from crashing, then he's altering the future. Now, is that the right thing to do? I mean, he's in the past, according to this, So he's living his life out in the past. Is it predetermined or not? Is this guy supposed to be here? Probably not, because we're not supposed to have time travelers. I've never met one, not a real one. Well, some at Star Trek conventions, and they think they're time traveling, but I don't think they are. In any case, you gotta wonder, what does that mean? What's the ethical thing to do? And I remember watching the old Time Tunnel television show where the two dumb scientists, and they were dumb, would always try and save the people, stop something from happening, get off the boat, and all of that without any feelings about what might happen to the history. And here, the time travelers, the thrill seekers, they're going back in time, and they're running it as some sort of vacation thing. And they hire a bunch of dumb people, too. The two people, Cortez and, was it Cortez? I forget. Whatever her name was. The one that looked like she belonged on The Matrix, and her boyfriend. Cortez and Felder. They were terrible. They were terrible investigators, and they even said they were terrible investigators. But that's characterization. But how much does this thing cost? What does it take to make this happen? Let me reset. Now, there was a lot of exposition in this, trying to explain things, because you had no actual, real, special effects or a budget for this film. So I'm not quite sure I remember exactly what happened, why they made it a, I remember the comment was, how can you turn this into an amusement park? Well, apparently they did. And I shouted back at the television. I said, the next thing they're going to do is they're going to launch people into space and space tourism. How stupid is that? And I realized what I said. So maybe it is true. I don't know. But they sure had stupid people. It's like it was run by the people at Jurassic Park or Spirit Airlines. That somehow or another that you're going to have these giant dinosaurs and nothing bad's going to happen with their flimsy fence. In this case, you got a bunch of two, time travel agents, Fender and Cortez, which are really, I'm talking about characterization. But in this case, the organization that hired them don't know what the heck they're doing. And how many times has this happened? And then they have this thing that almost destroys the timeline, and then at the end you got all these people, these time travelers, sitting around their sunglasses watching the stadium burn down. What does that mean in the scheme of things? Did they restore the timeline? Do we have more time machines? And then we got the guy with the time machine thing at the end with his watch. I knew there was something up with him. He was either a ham or a time traveler. I went with ham, but I was wrong. He's a time traveler who probably is a ham. Let's see, what else can I say about this that might matter or not? One thing that drives me nuts is the fact that it was so easy to pick the crazy guy out. Yes, he looks nuts. He's got the derby thing, and he looks kind of weird looking and easy to spot in a movie and in pictures. But you take these pictures, and they all have the same guy in them immediately. That's like an old NCIS or CSI game where you go, wow, and they do excessive clicking on the keyboard, and they say, here's a picture that came up from June 3rd, 2001. Here's another one from 1923. Does everybody see what's common between all these pictures? They're pictures? That's right. And then this guy is in it. It's highly unlikely, but they would do that. Just like was it Skyline chili or something in the guy's stomach, and that's how they know they came from Columbus, Ohio? Okay, if you say so. It definitely was written like a TV movie or a TV episode, and they filmed it in Canada. Boy, whatever that means. Okay, let's see. Michael, you said no, you didn't see the movie, but that's okay. I'm glad you checked in. Okay. Did I ask for any questions from you? I don't even remember. I'm a little tired. Michael, did you want to say anything about the plot, even though you didn't see the movie?
Not really. I mean, when Brenda was talking about it, I thought, oh, I've seen that movie. But then the more I've heard about it, it's like, no, I saw a TV movie or a TV show or a movie similar to this, where they would, you know, people from the future would zap people out of crashing planes and things because they needed people in the future or something. I don't remember what it was, but I don't think it was this. W9V.
Okay, and in a pastime, I would say yes, most of the movies are like that. And we go into this whole thing in discussion, and I say what I thought about the movie, and then I come back and ask you, did you have any comments, because I don't remember asking you. And then we go back into the loop, and it's a continuous loop, so we won't do that. Okay, well, that was exciting. Let's go to the top of the list and ask Bill, N5VV. Bill, your thoughts on characterization for thrill seekers from 1999 from KE5I6.
Okay, dokie, this is N5BB. Well, the only characters you really know much essentially anything about are the protagonist and then the Catherine Bell character. The protagonist, you know a little bit about his personal life, the fact that he and his wife split up and the wife got the kid and he hasn't been seeing the kid and he feels bad about that now. And then Catherine Bell, you get the idea that she must be single and devoted to her job, but you didn't really learn much at all about her other than, you know, what she was doing right now. The other people you had no idea, except the police sergeant or detective, whatever his title was, that was doggedly trying to arrest, you know, our main character. He didn't believe anything, and you know, I don't think I would have either. I think I would have done exactly what he was going to do. You know, if you tell somebody the reason I've got a gun in the airplane is because I'm trying to stop something from happening that I know is going to happen, they would suspect you as being the culprit, not some time travel story. And then the sidekick there of the police detective turned out at the end of the movie, if you watched carefully, he was the guy that in the future was going to design the time machine technology. So I'm assuming this means that all of this occurred in the comparatively near future. As far as the time travelers, I don't think they said a year. If they did, I'd be interested to know. But I don't think it was hundreds of years in the future. I think it was decades, maybe. Decades or something. Maybe a number of decades, but, you know, decades. I don't know. I mean, the characters seem to do a reasonable job playing their role. The crazy lady that was going to, you know, kill the protagonist, you know, she was over the top. She played that role very well. She was a pretty good assassin, and she could kick your butt and shoot you up with her gun. By the way, the gun something's wrong there. You know, you fire some weapon, it should have some kind of stun mode or something. Every time you fire it, you don't want to blow up the vehicle or something or cause a huge conflagration. Made for a over-the-top movie, but wasn't very practical for normal use. Like, you wouldn't want to shoot at anybody closer than about, 100 feet away, or you could hit by shrapnel and burning whatever. What else? The kid played a kid. The protagonist's wife, she played something normal. Her husband, her new husband, he acted normally. So I guess they did their job. So I wasn't unhappy with the direction and the acting and the characterization, because in this made-for-TV movie, they didn't have a lot of time to go in the deep back history of any of these people. I wish they'd had time to go a little bit more in the back history of these people from the future. You'd like to know a little bit more about that. But that would have taken another half hour. That's all I got, N5BB.
Thank you, Bill, and all good points. Let's see, next up is KB9SOK, that would be Sean, and we are talking about the movie Thrill Seekers from 1999, the made-for-TV Canadian extravaganza. Sean, your thought about the characterizations in this film from KE5ICX?
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Not a lot to really add. Bill pretty well covered it there. Our hero was a hero. I guess you could say Catherine was the sidekick. And they both played the parts, I thought, pretty well. The one, and I think to answer Bill's question, I think they said 2070, which kind of threw me off because I don't think there's any way we would have time travel technology that close in the future. If we really do ever figure this thing out, which hopefully we don't, it would be, thousands of years, I would think, down the road. That was a little strange. And I didn't buy that whole FBI agent being the creator of it. He just did it, okay, so he made a watch that he could record his voice. That didn't really make me think that he could easily jump to creating time travel. I didn't really buy him being a super scientist. So his character wasn't too believable. We really didn't find out much about anybody other than obviously our reporter. The lead, about his life, and everybody else's life was pretty thin. But, the time traveler guy that wanted to watch the events, he did seem pretty creepy. So I think he played his part well. And as far as characters, kind of, people wanting to see this kind of thing, I think it's sad to say, but it's probably true. There would be some people who'd want to see them, and not for science reasons. After all, years and years ago, they had the gladiators fighting each other to the death, so I don't know. Unfortunately, it seems like some of the human race still enjoys that sort of thing. I guess it's not much different than, the gladiators back then, or watching a boxing match, watching everybody beat each other up. It's probably sad to say, but if it was possible, there'd probably be somebody who'd want to go back and watch the disaster. So that is kind of sad, but for everything else, everything's pretty flat. It was pretty well acted, I think, for what they had to work with, and like I said, the movie was just kind of okay. I don't regret seeing it, but I wouldn't probably watch it again. But if somebody had anything else better to do, I would say it'd be okay to let them watch it. Back to Net Control, this is KB9SOK.
All right, thank you, Sean. Yeah, I get it. I fully understand. Let's see, this brings up Tony, NT5TM. Tony, why would you go back in time and see a movie where everybody is killed? because we're asking from KE5ICX. Tony is mad at me because I made that comment, and he knows it's true. Tony, do you have any comments, or did you turn the radio off and go to bed? You see, this is what happens when you don't watch the movie. You're ostracized from the group, and then you find you have no friends, and all you want to do is go back in time and see people die horrible deaths. Okay, speaking of that, WB50ZL, Miss Brenda, your thoughts on characterization?
This is WB50ZL. Well, it was formulaic, the relationships between everybody. You know, the estranged child and the complex relationship with his ex-wife and so on. Of course, it just, you know, helps feed the story along. So it's just no surprises there, nothing unusual at all. I really like Casper Van Dien. I loved him in Starship Troopers, and one of my favorite movies. Embarrassed to say, sort of. It's kind of a guilty pleasure. How did they find that creepy guy for the tourist? He was, and you look at that and go, why did he become an actor? He's so creepy. But, you know, I've been through this before as somebody you think is just incredibly creepy, and then you see him in another role and he's like normal, so he may have just been really good at acting creepy. Let's see. Were they believable? The two people who worked for the time travel company, they were just really dreadful, mean, wicked people. Just no feel at all for thousands of people dying. And I found that a little bit disturbing. It's like, is this what happens in the future? People just lose their empathy and humanity? I don't know, but of course they were genuinely unlikable. All right, that's all I got for now. WB50ZL.
All right, thank you, Brenda. We'll be back in a little bit with you on other stuff. Let's see. J, Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey. That would be J. Tell us your thoughts on characterization for the movie Thrill Seekers from KE5ICX.
KG5BCW, I didn't really, because I didn't see the film, I have no thoughts, and I'm just kind of listening at this point. KG5BCW.
Okay, I changed you from a yes to a no. I know you said you watched a few minutes of it, and then you turned the television off and threw it in the tub. Okay, Michael, you did not see the movie, but you've seen movies like it. And rant about those. That's close enough because all time travel movies are the same. WT9V from KE5ICX.
So you want me to rant about the characterization of the movie that I didn't see? Sure. They were terrible. Nobody was believable. Who were these people anyway, and why do we care? Because we don't. Am I doing all right so far?
Yeah, you're on a roll. Keep going, because this would apply to any movie, not just time travel movies. So go ahead.
Well, they weren't developed adequately. There was not enough time, no pun intended, for us to get to know these people. So nothing happened to them. They didn't do anything. They, things happen, special effects, blah, blah, blah. Do we care? No, we don't care. I think that's an adequate summation in just a few words. WT9V.
There you go. You never have to watch another movie again. All you have to do is just write that up and have it as your crib notes for the movie, for at least that one section of the film. You don't even have to listen to other people's responses. You just go and give your comments. You can go watch a real movie or a better movie or television or whatever it is you do at 11:30 at night, and then just spew that out. In fact, you can have a script for each thing about the film and what it has going for it. The plot. You don't even have to mention what the plot is. In fact, I wouldn't mention what the plot is. I would just simply state that the plot didn't really seem to fit the theme, and go on. And then your characterization, like you just did, and then special effects, just simply state, at that point we're in the third round anyway, and everybody wants to go to bed. And you just say, well, the special effects could have been better. It's very easy. This is something that you can do. All right, and with that, and I see your funky comments over there. Let's see, my comments on characterization. First off, let me go down to the time-traveling guy. This is Julian Richings. I went back to look to see what he has done. He's done a bazillion million things. Interestingly, there's one in there where he did a TV series. He appeared in nearly all the episodes, I think from the first season, of War of the Worlds, which, by the way, if you ever get a chance to see it, it's pretty okay. But it was based on the 1950-ish movie that was made, and it was part of a television series that lasted 2 seasons back in the 1980s. He was in that as the guy in the hat. Yes, not the cat in the hat, although he looks a lot like a cat. The guy in the hat. I remember him in it. He's sort of like the smoking man from the X-Files, off in the distance, observing carefully the humanoid that actually kind of reports back to the alien tripod people. He's done other stuff, but obviously his weird looks have a tendency to give him these weird offbeat roles, much like Leonard Nimoy had weird looks and got strange roles. Let's face it, he did kind of look weird. So there you have it there. Now, back to Tom Merrick as the character, played by Casper What's-His-Face. He was okay. The only problem is that he's just too heroic for a newspaper man. He left with losing his crew and deciding to get out of the biz and go into the magazine business. If he's going to, I don't know, join the Foreign Legion or something. It makes no sense that he go right back doing the same thing for a lot less money with another company. And a company he didn't even respect. Why he would do that, I don't know, except to further the plot. I've already mentioned our time-traveling people that are enforcers. They were terrible. But who was also terrible was the FBI. I have never seen a more inept group of people in my life, except on the TV show, the FBI. These people they left Merrick to his own devices in the office of the whatever that guy was, the agent. What are you doing? And he's sitting there, he's got handcuffs on, big deal. Well, they didn't have him chained to the desk or anything. They always do that. They always do that on the blues program with Tom Selleck. So, why don't they, I don't don't understand. Why didn't they do that? And he gets away, and then these two time travelers from the Misfit Toys section go and try and find him, and they can't find him. He gets away. And yeah, I agree. The stupid gun thing, that goes back to the first round. But the gun thing, isn't that a little bit overkill? Literally, you're a time traveler, and you're trying to keep things from going wrong. So you bring this grenade launcher in. Collateral damage, people die. They didn't even care the fact that they killed that poor goober, the gas station attendant. What the hell was that all about? The poor guy was minding his own business. How many full-service gas stations do you see in the world? Well, that was apparently the last one, and goober died a horrible death, only to be resurrected later on, and everything was fine. That was another thing that drove me nuts in the plot. Now I'm going to the plot. But the thing is, it was so easy to go and do this stuff. You said, there's got to be a time travel redo on it. And indeed there was. And I sent a note to Brenda about it, and she says, no, that would never happen. And it did. It did happen more than once. Let's see. The rest of the characters, so the FBI, Baker and Stanton's sots, they weren't very good at what they were doing, and they couldn't manage to find them. Let me see, one other thing, I think. Oh, by the way, just to let you know, the Thrill Seekers spokesperson in this thing appears to be the wife of Casper. So she got the job, and it was fine. Oh, let's see. What else? Martin Sheen as Grafasi. He could have phoned that performance in. There was nothing behind him. He probably filmed the whole thing in, what, an hour? How much of it could have been? I guess that was TBS trying to get him in there, or the company selling to TBS to have a headliner in there. Nobody else really was a headliner in the thing, and his role was somewhat unconvincing, I thought. So, who knows? Yeah, he was in a phone booth. Thank you, Brenda. It's about right. There was nothing to say there. So I don't know. It wasn't bad. Performances were okay, but it did indeed look like a made-for-TV movie. All right. Do you have any additional check-ins? Please come now with your call sign, name, and where you're transmitting from. Let me know if you saw the movie or not. Oh, and I did make a comment about why do they need such an overpowering weapon? Well, they didn't, as I just mentioned and ranted about, but they needed the weapon to get out of the big stadium and also be able to return the timeline, because we had to have all those people die so that we could continue and turn this into a TV series or something. I don't know why. At any rate, that's how they had to get people out. Okay, let's go to the top one last time. This may be the end of it. We are now going to talk about anything you want. Special effects, music, whatever. Bill, N5BB. Bill, whatever you want to talk about, go right ahead from KE5ICX.
Okay, Tom, this is N5BB. The rain in Spain falls mainly on the plain. Oh, maybe not anything I wanted to talk about this movie, right? Ah, okay. Well, somebody made the comment that it was unlikely that the nerd would invent the time machine. But at the end of the movie, if you notice, he is able to get a hold of himself one of the tablet computer communication time travel portal devices. So Who knows? Maybe he reverse engineered something associated with it. Maybe he traveled to the future. Who knows? There's kind of a weird loop there with some of the time travel technology getting back into the past. And there's always there's a few time travel stories where the plot is the way somebody invents time travel is somebody from the future brings it to them, which of course you get into a impossible loop. How do you get in the loop? I don't know, but once you're in it, well, the people in the future, where do they think time travel came from? Somebody brought it to the past. Where did they bring it from? The future. People in the past, where did time travel come from? It came from the future. Somebody came back with it. But that's the problem with these time travel things. It's something can appear from nowhere, like the time travel technology can appear from nowhere. And then at the same time, somebody can disappear. The duplicates in this movie just disappeared. And, another thing is when he went back in time, he went back right into the exact old body at that point. And of course, if you know anything about the way the Earth moves, I mean, we did participate in Skynet. If you delayed in time an hour, in the Earth's frame of reference, it'll have rotated 15 degrees, and if you're near the equator, that's a long way. And the Earth has also moved a long distance around the Sun in one day, and the Sun has moved relative to the local group quite a distance in one day. So all these time travel things always have the problem of how do they have to deal with the fact that when you go back in time, you got to go change your position also in some very complex way. Anyway, none of that was discussed. Special effects, they had to have some way of producing these explosions. So this sounds like the same special effects from the various other TV movies for car crashes and stuff like that. And sometimes they use miniatures. Sometimes they blow up cars and photograph it and then reuse that same footage many and many other times. And they probably superimpose things on things to make them appear that way. But, I don't know. Nothing special along the way. The special effects was good enough to be, believable, I would say. I think that's the end of my comments, Tom, in 5BB.
All right, Bill, and good comments on the transposition or the movement of things in space and time. Very true. And I remember a cartoon to that effect where the guy says, I'm going to go back into time and change what would be the future, and he does, and the Earth is gone, and he's in space, and he says, but the Earth is moving through space as well as time. All right, Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, whatever you want. Rant, you're up from KE5ICX.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Good comments there, Bill. I kind of thought that myself when I initially watched it. It's like, it's more than just a time machine. It's not only did they figure that out, they figured out how to put people through space as well, put them in the perfect spot. It's not like some of the time traveling movies where we've seen that when they travel in time, they're in the same spot when they reappear. But in this one, they could put them anywhere at any place. And, yeah, that part obviously they didn't explain at all. Once again, yeah, good point. What comes first, the chicken or the egg? Once again, how did they get the time travel? Yes, he did, I guess, steal the book there at the end, or the controller, and I guess he could have invented it from that. So, yeah. As far as overall special effects, yeah, the gun firing thing was ridiculous. It's probably the worst special effect they had because, yeah, that just made no sense at all. And it didn't even really look that good. And then their only other real special effect, I guess, was the tablet. And then when the guy went into the bathroom and traveled through time, we seen a flashlight underneath the door, which we've seen in many movies. Is an easy way to have an effect of somebody moving through either time or interdimensional or whatever. So yeah, but once again, it is a TV movie, so you don't really expect anything major, especially when it's on a major network, because they don't like to spend any real money, even though stations like CW and other ones seem to have no problem doing decent special effects. So, but yeah, not a lot there. The music was pretty generic. And the sound was okay. And, I guess, once again, the directing was okay. Nothing really special with the cinematography of this film. They started out with the classic slowly panning the camera across from one window of the guy's apartment to another. Once again, it's a nice little time killer, I guess. So, yeah, not a lot there. Is what it is. Back to net control. This is KB9SOK.
Sean, you had the most succinct and exact answer. That seems to be the most best way to sum up the movie in its most raw state. Okay. Speaking of, Brenda, WB5OZL, I'm going to skip Tony because he skipped out on us. He's mad at me because he thinks he likes NASCAR. Brenda, WB5OZL, go ahead. Any comments you want about the film? Please go ahead from KE5ICX.
Yeah. This guy went to all kinds of exciting events. Did he take a single selfie? No. You ever been on a cruise? They sell you stuff like a mug with pictures on it of your special moments. Or a t-shirt. My grandpa went to the Titanic and all I got was his t-shirt. So, I think these people are missing out on some money-making opportunities to soak their obviously well-to-do and wealthy clients, I guess. Although I did comment earlier, he seemed to be their only customer, which I didn't quite understand. I don't know how they stay in business. Okay, that's all I got. WB50ZL.
Now, wait a minute. He wasn't the only customer. At the end of the movie, when they restored sort of the timeline, there were a bunch of time-traveling people standing around, all looking weird with their dark glasses on, observing the altered event, because that was in their time travel brochure. So there you have it. So that's, you thought they didn't make any money. They made money off of 8 people. So, how can you make money off of 8 people? I don't know. Same way you make money off of 4 people going into space for 6 minutes? I don't know. Okay, next is Jay. KG5BZW. Jay, anything you want to talk about on this movie, go right ahead from KE5I6.
This is KG5BZW. I basically just
I was doubling with somebody.
Yeah,
Well, never mind.
the floor.
Well, I double with you again or something. I don't know. Anyway, I'm just going to say my 2 cents. The only way these time traveler movies make any sense is if like a whole new universe is created when you go back in time and you're just kind of, everything's new everywhere, and, you travel back in time, new universe, forward in time. Well, from which universe? You got 2 universes. Pick one. Go forward, go back in time again. Well, you got 3 universes to pick from. Pick one. Split from there. Basically, revision control system, source code. Yeah, blah blah blah. That's basically all you have to do is just look at source code system and branch from wherever the heck you want to branch from and go from there. That's pretty much it. KG5BGW.
Alright, thank you, Jay. And multiverse thing. They do talk about multiverse a lot today with quantum mechanics and all that. And you say that there is no predetermined anything. We make a zillion decisions in our lives, and all of those play out as does everybody else's. But I don't know. It's kind of like all the Star Trek episodes. They go back into time and they create alternate timelines and alternate timelines, and now there's a bazillion million timelines, of which you can join any of one of them. So if you kill off Captain Kirk, which happened in one episode, one movie, and he comes back to life, is that weird? I don't know. It might be. All right, Michael, WT9V, you didn't see anything to do with the movie, but go ahead and make your comments on special effects from KE5ICX. Oh, he says he ran off. Okay. All right, any final comments from anybody, any place? Please come with your call. Okay, no problem. Let's see here. Let me talk about next week's movie real quick. This one is from 2014. It's called The Reconstruction of William Zero, a 2014 American science fiction film directed and written by Dan Bush. It involves a character who plays a geneticist who clones himself. That'll be next week's movie, The Reconstruction of William Zero. It is available, I think, on YouTube for free. So go there and you'll be able to see it. If you're not sure, you're just listening, or you would like to be a part of our fabulous conversations, send an email to me, Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray, KE5ICX @yahoo.com, and say you'd like to be added to the Afterglow movie group list. And in that, I will send you the links and information about the movie so that you can go ahead and watch it for next Saturday's event. If you're not into that, or you don't have email, but you do have internet, you can go ahead and use the Facebook page, which is the Afterglow Movie. Afterglow is one word, movie is the second word, and just sign up there. I'll approve you, and there's a movie list there of future films in order from what you could see. As an example, in 2 weeks, The Quiet Hour will be the movie that we'll be watching, also from 2014. So next week's movie, The Reconstruction of William Zero. We'll see you meantime, everybody have a good rest of the weekend. And talk to you all soon. Thank you for a good evening, and we'll see you next week on the radio. This is KE5ICX, and I'm clear.